Up only.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Down and leave.
Hello and welcome to Down Bad.
You left it so long, just like silence.
I had to have the transition. Hold on a second, we're not done yet. Screw this. Welcome to Up Only TV. I am Ledger. We got Cobie, Jim, Cred on the line. Before we get all the way past the intro, though, let me tell you about FTX. Our partners, go to uponly.tv/FTX, where you can check out all the things that they do. They just launched stock trading today. You know we're in a bear market when all the crypto exchanges are announcing stocks. Hopefully that'll spur some interest. You can go to FTX US to trade stocks. Go to uponly.tv/FTX to check it out. Thanks to them for being our partners. All right. Cobie, how you doing?
Pretty good. Do you see that Sam from FTX just bought like loads of Robinhood and then launched a competitor at the same time?
It was only 7% of Robinhood, so it's not that bad. How many millions of dollars? Like hundreds of millions of dollars, but
Yeah. A bit shady though. He did just like go, Bitcoin sucks, bought Robinhood and then instantly launched stock trading.
Well,
So
then when he was supporting his colleagues and like testing FTX US today, he was buying Coinbase. he bought like,
Really?
Yeah, he bought like $70,000 worth of Coinbase, but.
Wow, Coinbase is like worth
That's
zero,
like half
isn't
the
it?
company, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's like gone to actual zero. Didn't you?
It's like a third of the
your...
FTX round or something. It's insane, the valuation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Didn't you get your dad to buy Ledger at the top?
No, not at the top. All right, sorry, Dad. Apologies here. I told my dad and my brother that Coinbase, when it was around 100, going under 100, that it was a good buy and it was a decent time to DCA. And
Well, it was goodbye, mate. That's for sure.
He bought a little early, but it's okay. I actually bought after earnings, so I was underwater for a minute too. But I'm back in profit, so it's more than I can say about crypto. But more importantly, Cobie, how you doing?
Mate, I'm pretty good. The sentiment on the internet seems not great. People don't seem to be very happy. I'm
Therefore,
fine.
you're great.
Well, I mean, not as good as normal, because normally I open the Twitter app and like get a little bit of happiness, or someone's telling some good jokes or something, and I'm like, that was good. Whereas now I open the Twitter app and it's just like doom. It's just like doom. Everyone's like shouting at each other. It's awful. But I don't really have many things in my life other than opening the Twitter app. So all things considered, going pretty well. We haven't done this for what, 3 months, 4 months?
Yeah, we did one, me and Frank, but the people really want you, so we.
But you did it. You did one at the top of the actual Pico top of the bull trap, the very, very, very top. I thought you were just doing a public service.
Yeah, just let everybody know this is when you sell the dead cat bounce.
Yeah,
but
it was actually at the very top of it, wasn't it? That's quite impressive.
Yeah, I'm pretty proud. We're very talented as a show.
Yeah.
We brought a couple of friends on to help us catch up with what the heck is going on in the market and the world. One newly doxed, I guess, from a face perspective. Jim Talbot, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, mate. Yeah, good.
The
I
chat
don't know
is
what
like...
kind of information you get on the markets from me at the minute. I'm like full-time golfer now. I suppose that says it all, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I tweeted like, what should we talk about? And a keyboard monkey was like, how stupid it is to trade these markets. I think everyone has just decided to stop.
No,
everyone's just
except for Keyboard Monkey, who trades them every day. He was being self-deprecating. He tweeted earlier today he bought everything this morning, was up 7 figures, and then completely round-tripped it to be down 6 figures this afternoon. So I feel like that's kind of the way to go if you're getting chopped up and trading actively. That seems to be what happens.
Well, at least he was up at first. That's much better. It could get, that's like, as far as that trade could have gone, it could have gone much worse. You go down first, close it.
Up.
I'll get it back next trade. Down, close it. Fuck.
Up temporarily.
Yeah.
Everybody's a trader in that scenario.
So you're just playing golf, Jim?
Pretty much, yeah. To be honest, I mean, I do trade still, but it's kind of hit all my targets that I set in December. So I'm just kind of waiting now.
So you're not in any shorts. You're just waiting on where to buy decently, or what?
Yeah, I'm kind of flat. I've got some other shorts going. Like I'm short Planet Fitness right now.
What?
I'm gonna just ride that to like March.
What the fuck's
March lows?
What the fuck's Planet Fitness?
It's like it's the type of gym that Americans join on January 1st, and then they never cancel their membership. It's like $10 a month, and their whole business model banks on you never showing up again. Because they oversubscribe the gym by like 1,000%.
It's such a good short because the initial rally was obviously post-COVID when gyms were closed. So it rallied off basically liquidity incoming with no real reason. And then it's obviously gone on a tear. But my thought process is like, if people can't afford to eat, they're going to cancel their gym memberships and stuff, Netflix, etc. So
somebody, couple people in the chat said you get free pizza there, so maybe people.
Look, there's a hole in your thesis. They're keeping it for the free food.
Inflation's got them down bad.
I mean, Jim's
Planet Fitness rallies on this news.
Liquidate Jim.
Yeah.
And we also have Cred on the show.
Yeah, Cred, what you've been doing.
Sorry for no cam, because otherwise it'd be immediately obvious that I'm Raoul Paul's alt account. So I thought I should keep the mystery up for a bit longer. Yeah, no, I'm pretty well. I'm at that point where I've started wiring money into centralized exchanges. One of my bank accounts has a 10K per day limit. So thankfully my entire portfolio I was able to get over today. Now I'm just waiting for something to know what that something is.
Yeah.
You do sound a lot like Raoul Pal. What the fuck?
Yeah, you were the one who said that first when he came on your show.
He was.
Yeah, it's just I think bougie British.
Yeah,
stuff,
I don't remember.
really.
I don't remember saying that. Sorry.
That's fine.
So have you just been doing the shred with Cred routine?
The shred with Cred is a thing. Yes. If you can't afford food, you might as well turn it into a fat loss regimen. You know, half the battle is fought for you. And then if you're going to end up in prison for fraud or for an NFT rug or whatever, it's a great place for exercise, push-ups, and covering yourself up from attackers or whatever else. So I think it's shred with Cred was my desperate attempt to like bottom this market by doing stuff unrelated to markets. And it didn't work. We just went lower. So now there's this Discord server with a bunch of like really good health and fitness information, but no obvious bottom yet.
Did y'all see the meme where somebody was like, imagine the world where you get 3 meals a day, you work out daily, you read a book every week. Doesn't it sound delightful? And welcome to prison.
So just to be clear, 0 people on this call are doing anything related to crypto now, or have been doing anything related to crypto for months.
I am. Screw you.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Good. Well, at least one person's tuned into the markets then, and then we can all learn what's going on.
I mean, Ledger's bought 10 of the last 0 bottoms, so he's doing really well.
Yeah, I did have 4 attempts at catching the ETH bottom in a row. And therefore 4 losing trades in a row. So that didn't feel very good. After I sold everything on that dead cat, Cobie, but I've tried to buy.
Then you just averaged back up.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I was at like a portfolio all-time high liquid basis at whenever that top was slammed back in the 200-day moving average or whatever. Y'all don't care about any of that, but and then I've just gotten wrecked ever since. So that's good. But
Yeah, you always got to budget a little bit of getting wrecked afterwards, don't you?
Yeah, give us another one of those dead cats, market, please.
I think kind of just gave us one. I think people are underestimating a
Today?
22% move off the fucking lows, to be honest.
Oh, you mean that?
People are looking for like 40% off the low to get a comfy short, which I think is a bit ludicrous, to be honest.
Yeah, I did like not luck for a couple of days, and then we were like briefly at like 1700 on ETH, and then we looked back and I was like, oh, we're at 2100 again, and I was like, 2100 now feels high. That's what they've done. That's what they've done to us. Like they're just getting us used to lower and lower prices.
But genuinely, like if you invert the chart now on let's say the 4 hour, I think the majority of people waiting for a perfect short would actually be longing this chart now for continuation.
Jim's gonna make me pull a whole.
But obviously the mentality shifts because people can't fathom sort of the short mentality. But it looks like trend continuation to me. We've had an expansive move out, we've consolidated, and we should move again, in my opinion.
Man,
Is that full retrace of COVID rallies?
not.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like an equal move to the impulse down we just had. So like maybe 20K, something like that.
Come on, man. I got a family.
You can understand why that's the case though, right? Like even non-technical stuff feels like people are starting to take Fed macro stuff correlation seriously for the first time in like 6 months. And then if you go on Twitter, it's not only depressing stuff and a general absence of happiness, but you also have every single like market making firm, VC firm, and also half the people who told you there could be no bear market now writing these really long threads about surviving and raise money and be resilient and we're all going to make it except everything's down 70%. So that's kind of the prevailing mood. So I can get why people are a bit in the dumps about it, because not only are you poor, but now rich people are telling you you're going to be poorer. It's a bit rough.
I also think people are stuck in the mindset of a quick resolution, because we've had sort of 2-3 years of quick resolution where we've had continuation of a trend after each correction, that people are trying to catch the dip, when in reality it could be 6, 12, 18, 24 months before it moves again, Like even if it bottoms here, I'd imagine it's going to consolidate for months. I don't believe it has bottomed here. Like as far as looking back in the history of Bitcoin, whenever it consolidates for 4 months or longer, I think one move down and then bouncing after a week and a half, 2 weeks is kind of an illogical. It just doesn't really make much sense to me. 4 month, if the 4 month consolidation broke to the upside, I think people would be targeting mid 60K, 70K, and longing here. But because it's inverse, they're thinking it's going to bottom sooner. But you kind of got to use the same logic in both directions, in my opinion.
That looks nice, doesn't it? Look at that chart. That looks good.
It looks fantastic.
Sorry about all the boxes. We're kind of a mess here, but
what I like to do when you see a chart like this is just remember how you felt at certain moments in the chart. Just like, when did you feel invincible? Like, what were you doing on this day? What were you doing? That day was the absolute top. What were you doing then?
I didn't even realize it went below 26K until well into the next day. I mean, it spent very little time there.
Just enough for a liquidation email, Ledger?
Yeah, that was very nice. I would have liked to buy that. I slept 3 or 4 hours hoping it would capitulate that night, and that's when it did the final dump. So I didn't get to get filled. I definitely would have liked to get.
Don't worry, Ledger, you'll get another shot, mate.
Well, that's not great because I bought earlier today.
Fucking oh god,
we're desperate.
It's kind of weird as well. The whole, because when USDT depegged for a little while, it fucked up the prices on Binance USDT pairs. So like the low on ETH Binance is like 1800, and it's 1700 everywhere else. So that kind of gives me reason to believe we'll at least retest that level.
Yeah.
That was kind of crazy, wasn't it? when the Luna stuff was unwinding, we need to talk about Luna because it's like, I guess, the biggest thing that's happened in crypto for a long time. But when it was unwinding and then USDT started depegging too, and the depeg took quite a while. It didn't just like depeg for like 15 minutes. It was over multiple hours, I think. It was like, there was a brief moment in my mind where like, maybe the Tether truthers were right all this time. Maybe there's going to be a like, you know, how big is the Tether market cap? Is it like 100 billion?
Yeah, it's way bigger than I thought.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. It was like, it's actually over.
It was like, yeah, this seems quite bad, but I personally believe Tether is fully backed and blah, 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 blah. I also think it's reasonable to not hold exposure to Tether just in case, given that you have other options which are absolutely zero cost for you to use, or at least there's good ways to hedge.
I was kind of buzzing in a way because I kind of cashed out the majority of my Tether over the last few months. So when it started happening, I was like sipping my tea, like, ha ha ha. Thinking the world was going to end.
Out in the nick of time.
Found it.
Yeah. Well, we were DMing, weren't we? And like said, well, like, it was a bit before the Luna unwind. Or I think you messaged me saying the Luna market cap is slightly below UST. Is that allowed? I was like, it's technically allowed, but it's not good. And we were talking about like, this is the season where like everything starts to feel unsafe. It doesn't matter like what it is. Like maybe you start to fear centralized exchanges. Do they have too much exposure to something that like a fragile part of the system somewhere else? And everything starts to feel like, I don't feel like good having my money anywhere anymore. So when Tether started to go as well, it was like, oh God, here we go.
People always ask me, where should I put my money? Where should I put my money during inflation and certain times? And the actual funny, ironic truth is that cash is probably the safest place to have your money right now, even though there's 8% inflation, because there's kind of, you know where you're at with it. It's stable at least. Like there's not really anywhere I personally, like the only exposure I have to any markets is obviously like the Planet Fitness short, which I'm just going to hold forever, and physical metals. That's all I have, and that's only a small portion of my portfolio. Is just a like, what if kind of scenario, you know, like the you know, zombie apocalypse or something.
Yeah, I do think a lot of people start to like the macroeconomic conditions make them lose the hope that there will be an environment where they can make money, which is almost worse than being down. Because if you're down, but you know that you can, you know, make it back. If you're down, but the market's still going up, you're like, okay, fine. There's a situation. I've got other opportunities to make it back. It's going to be all right. But when you're in this like weird inflation super high, Fed raising rates, equities going to zero, crypto going to zero, there's nothing really easy. There's no easy way to just make money. People go, I'm never going to make money again. It's over. Not only did I lose half my portfolio, but it's now there's nothing I can do for the rest of my life. That's all the money I'm ever going to make. So I think that is when people lose the hope, and that's when like the internet starts to get not super enjoyable to participate in.
Yeah, and it's why you need a strategy to trade as opposed to, you know, people fall into the trap of well, I suppose they consider investing as trading, so they're always trying to capture the best investment entry when the reality is only sort of 20% of the time it pays to buy and sit on your hands. The rest of the time, you know, like the market's basically so I kind of split my work up in trading as like 80% of the time it's making, it's wage market. It's a wage market. You're making a wage, and you have to think of it like a wage. And like, oh, what's my time exposure relative to hourly rate, etc. What can I skim off the market, as opposed to that 20% time in the market where you literally don't have to do anything. You just buy and just sit on the sofa for 6 months or whatever. But right now, like people, I see it all the time, they're round tripping because they have this expectation of it being price not going back to your entry. But the fact is, it's going to just redistribute and reconsolidate for a really extended period of time. So if you're up on the day and you've got in profit, just take the profit, because you'll get the same opportunity within a week, probably. Do
you mean this in a bear market sense, or you believe that all the time? Because I don't feel like the evidence holds out for that in the long tenure for especially like index stuff, or even if you look at obviously emerging assets like Bitcoin as a whole, holders did much better than people that were like, all right, it's done, Bitcoin went from $11 to $1,000, I'm out.
Yeah. Well, but me personally, like, because I treat trading as a job, like that period from 2017 through to 2020, yes, I could have held through that, but I'd have not realized any profit. I'd have just been sat waiting. So I like to constantly have my money working for me to where I'm realizing profit. So there's instances where it could be a really extended period of ranging where I will constantly take profit and capture that profit. Otherwise you're almost giving away money by not realizing profit, in my opinion, because you can always just re-enter. So splitting it, I suppose, over an investment portfolio and a trading portfolio.
This is what we do, right? We trade what we invest. We invest in what we trade, and there's a really weird relationship where crypto people are very reluctant to classify themselves as one or the other, or switch regimes from one or the other. So you end up doing like bad versions of both, whereby you trade your way out of what should be good investments and stuff you want to be holding, and then you hold shit that should have just been a quick trade. Instead, you end up being a Telegram mod 2 months later. So I feel like that's pretty chronic in the space. The only argument that comes to mind for like not being so active trading when conditions are like this is the whole sort of bear market PTSD argument. And I think that was borne out really well quite recently in kind of 2021 or whatever else. Like some of the people who did very poorly in the trending conditions were the kind of BitMEX, battle scarred, no breakout is real, everything is going to BART full retrace lot. Because, we don't know how to hold a position to save our lives, how to trade a breakout to save our lives, how to set targets that are anything more than 0.5%. Right. So if you're going to make that argument, essentially some version of shitty conditions lead you to habits, which if you then employ when conditions aren't shitty, will leave a lot of money on the table. So, if you can afford the luxury of having hobbies or a life or golfing or whatever else, it's like, pretty decent time to lean more into those, because there's a decent likelihood that a lot of the trading habits that you pick up now generally won't serve you super well later. Like there's a tough balancing act, because the risk management stuff is super useful to like learn and always bear in mind, but then not being able to like trade a trend or an uptrend, and those dynamics totally different. Like if you lose that, then you underperform next cycle. It's a bit tricky. So I just lose money either way, and that's how I get around it.
So it seems to me like a bunch of people are saying like, oh, well, now we're in Goblin Town when we're 60% off the top in Bitcoin, and more than that in a lot of other things, like 75% or more on other things. Now, I completely understand an altcoin that's down 90% can go down another 90%. Like we saw that in a matter of hours with Luna, and, we've seen it cyclically. But if you look at Bitcoin itself, the last two bear markets were down 85%-ish. We're down 61% now. So like is this more of the, start paying attention to reaccumulate, or is this truly like you still have time to get out because it's all over and it's gonna, it just seems unlikely to me that this is the best overall time to sell. Like the best time to sell was obviously months ago when it was the top, and how do you?
Thanks, Ledger.
Yeah, no problem. I'm here for the financial advice. You should have sold, bro.
Sell high so that you can buy low. Thanks, Ledger.
But like we're trying to now like if you did an equivalent 85% move, it's 11-12K type of range. Is that what you're expecting? Is that what you're trying to prevent with this? Or do you think there's a chance that the drops are smaller over time, like we've talked about for a long time? Like, could we have smaller bear markets, or do you think it's the same old bear markets?
Longer.
What about depth?
I don't know if depth necessarily has anything to do, but I think it's going to be a prolonged period based on, the larger the amount of people enter a market, obviously we've had that sort of mass adoption phase. For me, it's naturally going to take longer to re-establish value in a market that's marked up from such low price to such a high price in such a long time that naturally, like for me, the market is a constant auction. It's an auction, and when you get a rapid move, such a huge rapid move, the market then needs to re-establish what's the fair price that people are willing to pay for it. And if there's more participants in that market, it's going to take longer to re-establish that value and weed out the people that aren't necessarily in it for the right reasons, etc. So I could see it being longer. I could see it being longer.
We just keep shifting goalposts. It's very entertaining, right? It's like no bear market. Okay, bear market, but it won't go as deep. Okay, fine, it'll go as deep, but it won't be as long. I wonder what the next iteration of that is going to be. If you want a full bear target, the argument is essentially it went down, 80% cycles irregular when macro wasn't historically dog shit, and this is historically dog shit, and therefore it's going to be worse. Like if you want to steel man the bear tart argument, it's got to be some version of that, right? At least as bad, if not worse.
And it is reasonably compelling, right? Because Bitcoin has never existed when equities were not in a bull market.
Mm-hmm.
We had many people come on this podcast and advocate for the not as deep of bear, long consolidation, new regime.
Do you remember when
it's just a moronic thing to say, really, in my opinion. And you've also got to factor in the level of participation. Like we've never seen so many idiots enter the market as we have in the last 2 years. Let's call it out. I don't mind being harsh. People have been buying shit on their phone because it's going up. This is who we're again. So more idiots than them. No.
I'm down for this today.
I just think, it's going to take a long time to weed those kind of people out. My opinion.
Yeah.
People are excited about mass adoption, but the clue is in the name. It's adoption of the masses. If the masses enter the market, then there's not many people left to enter. So it's going to take naturally longer to get back to that base level where you're going to get rapid growth again.
The masses entered and they all bought SafeMoon. Why wouldn't they buy my bags? Why didn't they want to buy the latest iteration of an AMM? Didn't they look at the maths for Uniswap V3 versus Curve V2? Why did they buy SafeMoon? That's not even a thing. They did all buy weird shit though. They bought SafeMoon and the dog coins and I don't even remember now. BSC shit coins.
The big concern as well is the base savings rate is already below pre-COVID levels. So people have had the stimulus, they've had the benefit of all this stimulus for 2 years, and they're already back below where they started.
Yeah.
And we're mid-correction. That's terrifying, in my opinion.
Yeah, they'll just gambled it.
And you've got supply chain issues. You've got exacerbated price of everyday items, gas, electric, fuel. So you got people with less savings than before stimulus, with higher costs and less spending power. It's just a recipe for disaster.
Jim, how do you think this reflects in more passive markets like the S&P for try to just derive crypto stuff from broader markets?
I just think we're going to get a really subdued, sort of stagnant period of a few years where it's going to be very hard to grow for any growth companies because I just think demand's going to diminish so much to the point of where there's no incentive really. So I think you could argue it's one of the worst spots we've been in our lifetime. Personally, that's what I think. I don't like being one of these. I always get annoyed because people are always. You get someone every year saying we're going to get a 1920s fucking Great Depression. I'm not calling for that necessarily, but as far as dynamics go and where we're at currently, like I think the case for a really long, nasty period of slow economic growth is as high as it's ever been, personally. And then we're not even getting into the housing market and the variable interest rates and how many new buyers are on shit mortgages at 5% deposits in the UK, etc., on inflated prices, and it's just a shit show, to be honest.
No, metaverse land is pretty cheap now.
Is it though?
Yeah.
No. To be fair, like the macro stuff, like it's just, in some ways it's the opposite of what we had at the bottom that led to the crazy, reflexive, unprecedented rally type of stuff, where you've got like super accommodative policy, monetary wise, kind of central bank side, fiscal side, stimulus side, people literally being given money to spend on stuff. Because of the pandemic, you couldn't go anywhere, so people's household savings in the UK were like the highest since World War II or some crazy shit like that. And then everything like turbo moon, and now it's kind of the reverse of that, right? It's like stuff's expensive, people don't have money, fiscal and monetary is tight and not accommodating. So do you get like a similar type of outsized reflexive move to the downside? Like fuck knows, right? But at least narratively it seems not very cool, and central banks are taking this shit very seriously with their language, like literally using the word pain and other stuff. Ledger and I talked about this ages ago. He probably should have stopped buying dips by then, but it's the whole thing of don't fight the Fed, right? Like don't fight it on the way up and don't fight it on the way down either. And people were really comfortable taking the long when it was don't fight the Fed, when it meant bullish, but when it's the other side of the trade, there's like a slower response. It doesn't mean you go down the straight line, it's just something to consider.
You remember when they did that? The Fed people have to sell all their stocks
at the
to avoid conflict of interest. Like, has there ever been such a good signal as that? It's like, we're going to nuke everything. We're selling it all so that we don't have a conflict of interest when it's going lower. It's perfect.
All right, I'm going to put a Doomer linear quarterly S&P 500 chart up here. That's pretty fun. Jim, I think what the stagflation argument makes a lot of sense. Like things continue to be difficult. There are challenges in various parts of the market. No new all-time highs for quite some time at a bare minimum.
Like an issue from going from such extreme growth to even just like back to the mean of before stimulus is like, it's going to feel much worse of a correction. I can't remember who it was that said it, but it's like going from having your foot completely on the pedal to literally crashing into a wall, like that's how it's felt. There's no easing. It's like going from one extreme to the other extreme.
Q2 doesn't actually start till next month.
Cool. Inflation's hurting me with golf. Like my golf balls have gone up like £3. It's fucking. I don't know how I'm going to get through, to be honest.
I think the interesting question is, what do you think happens in response to this? Because you've had an economic policy which for decades has created an eternal bull market, right? Where the best thing to do was, own stuff, and every now and again there's a cash bubble. Like you were supposed to be exposed to stuff the whole time, whether it was houses, equities, fictional internet coins, or whatever. And this economic policy has brought us to here, where now no one can afford anything, and all the people that have assets are getting their assets steadily going to zero. And it just feels to me as though we'll get through it somehow with a bit of pain and a little bit of sideways and a little bit of down, and everyone been like, oh, this sucks for a while. And then in a few years, we just resume previous economic policy because it's tried and tested and everyone loves it because they figured out how to make it work, rather than there being any sort of material change in how the world works. You had the COVID like free money thing, but it wasn't just personal stimulus. They also did the company, I don't remember what it was called in America, where they gave companies
PPP.
grants. Yeah, and it turned out like 600 billion of it was stolen or something. They went like most of it went offshore. It got stolen or some shit. And does it feel like we learn anything from that, or do we just do it again next time something bad happens? Because New Zealand's giving away another $1 billion of stimulus, aren't they, to their citizens? And there's not many people in New Zealand. There's like 50.
Well,
how much do they get each? It's fucking insane. It's crazy. They're living like kings there.
Yeah, they said something like we're fighting inflation by giving everyone cash from the government.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that is going to work.
You run it back, right? That's got to be the roadmap. You just run it back. It's the same old stuff. I mean, even narratively, people are calling it like the Putin price hike now in certain parts of the world.
No, not people. Just like weird PR people, like the.
Oh no, just the president of the United States.
Press secretary. That is the cringiest thing.
But I think what it means is narratively, you have so much convenient and mostly / sometimes valid stuff to blame that when that stuff kind of goes away, you can go back to the way things used to work. Now, that's not the best policy by any means, from an equality point of view or whatever else. There's a sociological argument or political economy, whatever. But I really think kind of zoomed out point of view, this is the non-doomer take. Within 1 to 3 years or something, all the hindsight armchair analysts are going to look back and say, oh, it was so obvious that this was oversold, or this is like a generational buying opportunity, yada, yada. And then now look, it's making new highs, and you could have gotten in early. Those people are so lucky, and so on and so forth. It might take a while. It might take longer than we expect, or go lower, or the chop might be unbearable, or whatever else. But I don't think I don't think there's going to be a complete paradigm shift when it comes to central bank policy in general, or just how Western political economies are built. I'd be surprised at the very least, and poor.
I think people overcomplicate it. They try and find data that refutes what's happening in order to, feed their bias, their underlying bias, so if they want it to go up. But really, just when the Fed's in QE mode, just buy stuff. When the Fed's in tightening mode, sell stuff, and just wait for QE to start again. Like, it's that simple. Like don't try and outsmart the system. This is the system, and it's like it's a constant growth with fluctuations based on overzealous greed and then over too much fear. And like, you just go, like, there'll be a point where it's like the world's ending, and the Fed will come in and go, okay, we'll fix it for a while, and then they'll fix it for a while. Then you'll get the overzealous greed, and then they'll have to fix it again. So just wait. Don't try and refute it and try and outsmart the market. The market is the market, and just wait, because they will have to step in again. But it's probably not going to be for a while.
I think if you want to outsmart on something, what you want to outsmart on is like what you buy and what you sell. It's like, if we're going into a phase where the best thing to do is buy, then the outsmarting you want to do is like, okay, if everything's going to go up, what do I think is going to go up the most? And vice versa. Like, if it's in sell mode, what's the safest thing to sell, or what's going to like get obliterated? Like when Luna started, when UST depegged, Luna was the most free sell of all time when it was like clear this peg could not be recovered, because you had the ARB UST to dump Luna type mechanic where Luna goes to zero by design. And that's one of the examples of like, okay, if you're going to sell something, you can sell this thing because the chance of it recovering is so small if they try and save UST. And a lot of the like tail end stuff on Binance or FTX or whatever, that have these like super overinflated valuations, they're also like, they're free, they're easy to sell, because like they're not worth what they're even like trading at today. They're worth a tenth of that at best. So if you're going to try and outsmart, I think it's better to outsmart on that specifically, rather than like outsmart the market on trying to catch the bottom or catch the top or whatever.
Yeah. I think people are better off buying stuff that's going up as opposed to trying to time buying stuff that's going down. Just wait for the new trend to start, because it won't matter by the end of that trend where you bought, respectively. But people have this fascination with obsession with trying to time, try and catch the reversal, but like wait for it to reverse. Like as long as you're early, like I think you're better off buying greed early than because people always like, it's like the meme, isn't it? Like, oh, buy fear, sell greed, but timing that is so difficult. You're better off buying greed early and selling fear early, or even late, honestly.
How many times did like top signals happen in 2020 and 2021? You know, between like whether it's, you could point at Doge pumping, Safe Moon going nuts, like all of those things, celebrity stuff going.
Elon SNL,
good God, like that could have been entire market type of top narrative event. But you lost a lot of money or lost a lot of upside if you exit everything, unless you just exited Doge, which would be a god tier trade. But like, yeah, I mean, trying to time that, how far can that euphoria go, is really hard. Like, how many times would a Bored Ape mentor have sold their Bored Apes, and like those suckers are still over 100 ETH, and even though they're down 50%, but plus I got Ape Coin and all the other things, like one Bored Ape's probably made people what, $600,000-$700,000, something like that. It's hard.
Yeah, those people really killed it this cycle.
Like, how many times in this downtrend have you seen people say, like, post fear and greed charts, like fear and greed charts at 48k, fear and greed charts at 40k?
It's like it's at 20, it's at 15
like,
now.
Like there's enough fear in the market for price to go down. Okay, so don't try and buy the fear, because the fear's rampant. Wait, or sell it. Like, if you'd have sold at any point where people have been crying out for the bottom, you'd more than likely be in profit right now.
Or just ignore the bottom because it doesn't matter, right? And the best cycle-defining trades happen multiples and multiples after the majors have bottomed. Like, think about Sol, LOL, Luna, AVAX, Axie, etc. Like, all and NFTs, Bored Apes, all that stuff really came to fruition and got its main momentum and the brunt of the move, whatever, when Bitcoin and ETH were multiples and multiples up from their respective lows, right? So it seems like the priority is to survive the lows. I mean, if you can buy it, great, and then have capital to throw it wherever the flows are or whatever the momentum play is, or new sector or whatever else. I think people just are obsessed with catching the bottom for clout purposes, and also to like stop the pain purposes. You know, it's like, okay, but I'm going to stop losing money now, and I've even profited from it. But it's super overrated. It's just like the 3K after 6K breakdown. Like, a lot of people who bought that, and I tried to buy that at 4.8. That was fun. But a lot of people who bought that, you know, even if they caught the bottom price-wise, it was not the bottom time-wise. And they had to sit in that position for like months while their entire feed is telling them that it's going to go 50% lower, you're going to get continuation and so on. Yeah. And therefore, as soon as it ripped and it went to like 4K, 5K, then 6K, a lot of those people were selling, right? Just because of the amount of mental capital you had to expend to hold those positions. And then the people who were willing to pay up the 2x and buy 6K, they had a way easier time holding, much more momentum, and, you know, in general, it was a lot easier to trade. So I think we might get something similar here. Yeah,
I think that's right. I want to talk a bit about Luna, because it was the it was interesting thing that has crossed over from crypto world to the real world, I guess. No one here had any Luna exposure, USD exposure, anything, I'm guessing?
Nope.
No. Good. So, I mean, I think the only thing, like, it's a little while ago now, so I don't know if there's everything's really been covered by a lot of people. But I think the thing that's most astounding to me is how many people that I guess are like industry professionals or like had several $1 billion of assets under management got completely nuked by this event. So like those Delphi Labs, I think one of the Delphi branches had built everything on Luna, like all in on the Luna ecosystem. They built Astroport, they built Mars protocol or whatever, all these Luna things. Hashed lost 3.5 billion which was like 80% of their assets under management. It means they were basically all in on Luna. They went from like 50 million to 4 billion over the last few years, and now they're down to 500 mil left. And you know, all of these like big name funds bought the recent like round, right? Like 3AC was in there, Binance bought it, CZ went on a big like rip on Luna on Twitter. It's like I haven't seen CZ angry in a while. He's come back. There was a lot of buying this discounted round, and it feels a little bit to me like I don't really know how to explain it. I don't know if people got blinded by the fact that the price was going up for so long to the risks, or whether they just accepted the risks and they go, look, us doing a $300 million investment is actually not very much money for us, so it doesn't matter. And if they do make the perpetual motion machine work by, you know, managing to over collateralize it in time by buying enough Bitcoin, you know, at lows that Bitcoin ends up being worth more than the UST reserves over time, then maybe they can make it work. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like it wasn't super difficult to do this analysis that there can be problems if the UST peg is like pushed over. But yeah, like lots of people at Delphi, like not just Delphi as an institution getting rolled over, but loads of the staff and their team basically lost everything too. They had personal funds in Anchor or in UST or whatever. So I think that's the main thing that remains interesting is a lot of these huge funds were like very, very, very exposed. And then on the way down, a lot of the people, like, you know, these anon traders that I follow were like longing Luna the whole way down, just like people trying to buy like, oh, it's $1 now, that's cheap. Oh, it's 10 cents now, that's cheap. And like doing it the whole way down and like just throwing millions of dollars away. So yeah, I don't know, just dumping thoughts.
You know, when it went on its way to zero, it 10x'd, I think 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And just basically from shorts closing. And I just think, I don't even know what market anywhere in the world historically, like where has there been any type of blow up to that degree, right? Like as you approach zero, like it keeps going down 99.9% over and over again. And
well, it's only like currency markets, right?
I guess.
Only like currency markets where something gets hyperinflated.
Yeah, I don't think it can be anything else.
Yeah.
But being that liquid, probably more liquid than some of those currency markets, you know, like, and 50 billion, I guess, something 50 to 60 billion combined between Luna and UST that got wiped out.
I think it's even more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
Luna's fully diluted was 100 billion, yeah.
Luna's FTV was 100 billion at the top or something.
Yeah, no, this is like quite interesting because what Luna did was a very exaggerated and very quick version of what a lot of things I think are going to do soon. Because Luna, you know, started nuking. It was like, what, $80 when this thing started. And then suddenly it was 8, and then it was 1, and then it was like cents, and then it was fractions of cents. But in the middle of this like insane nuke, when the chart was just like one red line, you know, looked like a Telegram sticker that was fake or something that you used to like send memes to friends. When that happened, I looked at the CoinGecko, I looked at its fully diluted valuation, and it was still worth $2 billion.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, so like Luna, it was like, you know, somewhere like it's going towards, you know.
That's 2 cents.
I can't remember specifically
it looks so
where it was.
log. I can't believe how it looks on log. It's so full.
I mean, this is 2 cents, and
Yeah, I don't know where I don't know if 2 cents is a 2 billion mark. I can't remember, but I remember looking at it and then being like, oh my god, it's down like 99.99%, and it's still worth multiple billions of dollars. And I think that you acclimatize to these numbers such that like $1 Luna felt very cheap when you got to see it on a chart, because you've acclimatized to it being 100, and you know, down 99% seems like it's down a lot. And I think a lot of people have done that on a lot of different types of crypto assets, like investments, coins, whatever. But they haven't internalized how much supply gets unlocked over the next few years, what price points these people own it at. You know, a lot of VCs that have blown up in Luna will own tons of vested stuff that they're still up multiples on and will still be happy to sell, like people were happy to sell Luna because it was the best price they could get. So I do think it's like sort of a good advert for some high FDV, zero product, like coins, that especially ones that raised like towards the end of the bull market, where they, you know, people bought locked coins for like 50% discount or whatever, but the discount's already gone.
Mm-hmm. Luna's up 11,000% off its bottom tick.
What does the bottom tick? What number? Is there any lucky number?
It's 99, all the zeros, and then 99 on the dollar scale.
Can we just take a second to appreciate GCR hedging is
It's $22 million.
72 cents or something. That's the most Chad thing I've ever seen in my life. It was such a fuck you to Do Kwon. I've never seen anything like it. It's the best thing I've ever seen.
Oh man!
Well, he bought the Luna supply such that if it went back to the price, it would be worth the 20 million. He bought it for 70 cents.
And he puts for 70 cents. It's the most Chad thing I've ever seen.
I think the
Might be the greatest trade of all time, to be honest.
Sort of, how does this stuff happen? I don't know, like for me, it's like the cult of personality point is super dangerous, both in terms of around the specific founder, but also, you know, when you've got so many sophisticated investors around you, you're going to think, well, someone else surely will have accounted for this or noticed this potential downfall or mechanism that breaks this thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the round, right? And you've got like 4 or 5 big names, you all kind of look at each other. It's like we're all very smart. And if no one else has spotted it, then potentially it's fine. I think Cobie's version of, they thought it could catch up, or the mechanism would grow with time, or their reserve strategy would work. I don't know, man. I think you're being far too charitable. I really think it's just this positive feedback loop and circle jerk, both around the founder and also the other people at your cap table.
It's
yeah.
It's
it's the ant mill, yeah. And then also like the issue with like the hashed example, right, or like other funds, is like it really sucks when you become too big where you can't really sell, or you can't like functionally or effectively sell when you're like, all on chain and playing a big part in the network and the governance and reputationally become attached to something kind of like Sailor and Bitcoin, right? I mean, 99% of us are not going to have this issue, but if you ever get to a point where you're like too big or too invested to be able to risk manage effectively, that's kind of a rough spot to be in.
They should have just hedged on perps. Isn't that what everyone else does?
It's currently a $960 million market cap for Terra Luna. Currently,
still too large.
Well, yeah,
it's still worth $1 billion.
Yeah.
The problem is, it's part of the cycle. It's part of every cycle. Is VCs reach that point of they can't do no wrong. They can't do any wrong. Like any other trader in the market, they just keep. They've got a winning formula, and they're going to keep doing it, and they're as stupid as anyone else. They've just got more money on the line. But these new products, they come to market, and the guys with the good marketing, the ability to market these products, they get a free pick of anything good, and they'll go to them and say, look, we want this money, we want your name on our product because it'll pump price. It's basically the position we're in right now, where VCs are just going, yeah, I'll take a fucking bag of that for X amount of money. And they've had it so good for so long that there's no ramifications to their actions. There's no there's no even thought of this kind of blow up, because it's like anyone. You win for so long, arrogance kicks in, ego kicks in, and you don't check yourself until the market checks you. And you're just going to see that now. It happens in traditional markets as well. There's always a period where VCs get absolutely shafted because they've just been too greedy for too long. And it's no different in crypto. If anything, crypto VCs are more stupid than any other space because they've had it so easy. Like some of them are complete morons, in my opinion.
And if you get rewarded with the spray and pray for like 2 years in a row, right? Like,
Yeah.
what kind of habits is that going to build?
And the structure of
Exactly.
rounds and the quick liquidity, or at least ability to hedge, offers a like very high strike rate for at least the, you know, VC parties. By the time it becomes liquid, you're just begging retail to buy it, and retail does buy it for a very long time.
Yeah, I think the perps dynamic is pretty interesting, because if you buy those late lunar rounds, like if you're one of the people that buys the locked coins in December or whatever for a discount, so you get to buy, I don't know what price lunar was at the time of the round, but let's say it was $60. You get to buy it at 30. You can immediately sell it on perps at 60, and you can sell it on perps whenever you want. You know, you can close that position whenever you want. You can reopen those positions. So I think it's a weird dynamic, and I don't know if it really exists in like traditional finance anywhere, because you don't normally buy like locked positions at a discount. And I wonder how much extra VC gets spent because those tools exist. Like, they wouldn't make such a large check on these locked 4-year locked positions if they didn't have a liquid market to sell into while they remain locked. If they didn't have a good way to hedge,
Many.
I don't think there'd be as many like checks written.
Token liquidity plays a huge part in a willingness to fund. I've experienced this firsthand, having a company that has raised money without a token. Your valuation is not the same versus if you have a token with whatever locking parameters. It is not the same. The conversations are not the same. The due diligence is not the same. It is just not the same. And VCs absolutely use the token mechanics as a way to exit the cost basis at a bare minimum to get that earlier liquidity for the token. I would love for someone to refute that to me. I'd love to hear it, but it's not the same.
Yeah, it's funny because do you remember after you, mate?
It's been evident it's one of the reasons I've been very bearish over the last few months. It's been very evident over the last few months that there's not the money coming into this market that people had hoped for, and people have been sort of thinking, and so like there was a period in 2020 where all markets were going up at the same time, but over the last few months these altcoins with locked supply, they've been having like isolated injections of capital on the perps that are being sold into aggressively, and that's clearly hedging, in my opinion, from the VCs. And it's so evident, it's so obvious that like the isolation of the pumps, like they go from one coin to another, like they'll pump one and then it'll just die, and they'll pump another and it'll die, and they're clearly hedging exposure before, you know, the market shits the bed. So that was a big indicator for me over the last 4 months that the market's like sort of not in a good spot.
Whereas early in the cycle, there was the bullish unlock, right? Like there was unlocks for Solana and what others that, you know, they unlock at $3 or whatever. But so many coins had already changed hands, like that was a lot different. And then it actually hits perps, and what people expect to happen doesn't happen, and it moons instead. Obviously, that dynamic changed.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I wonder what's going to happen with what the fallout of Luna will be. It feels like most of the crypto VCs will have zero repercussions, and maybe they'll lose a bit of money on their position because they'll do the, you know, Madoff scheme, pay off small investors first type reparations plan, and then they'll just get back to like funding whatever when the environment suits it. But it does feel like we're going to get a bunch of like stablecoin regulation because of this. You know, it was a product that was marketed as a savings account with safe yield. You had Y Combinator companies building on top of Anchor, where they would like accept USD deposits, put it into Anchor, shave 10% off the top or 5% off the top, or in some cases like 30% off the top, and like put all of these like clients' funds at risk of the UST risk. So I saw a company called Stable Gains, which is a YC company, who lost $50 million of like user funds. They've only got 5,000 users or something.
Wow.
And they're like tweeting Do Kwon saying like, hey, can we go get our balance back somehow? And I think they're just fucked. They're in big trouble now. And I think because of that, a lot of regulators around the world, particularly America, UK, are going to be pretty excited. It's like the invitation they've been waiting for, like a really major blow up on a stable coin. So
Can't tell.
I do think that will.
Can't tell what's real news anymore. But did Korea file both civil and criminal charges against Do Kwon already?
I believe so. Yes, they started up there. Like they had some sort of like crack team that was dissolved that they've reinstated to go after this. Yeah.
The Grim Reaper is I mean, I hope I'm not in a situation where the Grim Reaper's coming for me.
It's the big issue with a lot of these altcoin projects, in my opinion, is that they're built with the assumption that demand will come in a sort of orderly fashion for kind of like a constant orderly fashion, and then no market works like that. Suddenly, you know, like as soon as that demand dries off, they're susceptible to these kind of moves. So it's kind of weird. I literally did a big thread on it like hours before it depegged, which is quite funny. So people thought I did it.
That was a guilty
Did you?
laugh.
That's not a denial.
I was on the golf course, so I had nothing to do with it.
Well, yeah, I did. People did very quickly come to this like sort of, oh, we got attacked type excuse. It was like, oh, it was an attack and it was Citadel and BlackRock or whatever. And I think they posted refutations, right, saying, oh, we don't trade stable coins, basically. But even if it was an attack, right, even if it was an attack done by Yellen and Joe Biden, like personally on the curve pool, draining like one side of the LP, even if there was an attack like that, the point of these systems is they need to be resilient to attacks. Like attacks will happen. You can't have like a scheme that's fundamentally unsound, and if it falls down, be like, well, Citadel got us. Sorry, guys. It was BlackRock and Citadel. It's supposed to be in a place where these things cannot get attacked, and they stand up to like these. Like you can't just push it over with a few $100 million, and then all of a sudden hundreds of billions of dollars are raised. So I found that sentiment extremely strange, but maybe it was just coping while it was all happening. And
it wasn't as though it was a sustained attack. This is what's fascinating to me about markets. That like, also like, as soon as you incite fear into the majority of participants, they do the rest. You only have to like chip at it. You know, you have to just nudge it over the edge, and everyone else does the rest. So it wasn't like necessarily a big sustained attack. It's just let's get people fearful enough to where they doubt the system, and they'll literally, you know, do the damage themselves. And it was just a big spiral of people running for the exit, basically.
It's like an extreme form of cope that's spilled over, basically, right? From the GME meme stock investing type of community, where there's always some big entity hiding this and a large conspiracy, whatever. And the fact that we've embraced that language so readily, I don't like it at all. I don't think it's very productive. Like, as Cobie says, even if it were the case, like, do better, be better, you know? Yeah,
you got to take your own responsibility, you know, like, this thing was fundamentally flawed. Most people would see it, in my opinion, like nothing that needs to sustain that level of demand in order to establish peg and everything. It's just a stupid idea. Like, it's clearly unsustainable. It's just ridiculous.
There have been instances like that before where people, it seems at least someone attempting to tip off a broader cascade. Like if y'all remember, what year was this? 2019, when people tripped a BitMEX cascade by having a spot sell on, I think, Bitstamp that affected the index enough that then caused a liquidation cascade. And like it seemed pretty clearly like an active attempt to cause ripples in the market. I do think something with Luna could have started like this, like somebody somebody sees the risk, tips it, and then watches the rest happen. You know, like, do you think that's impossible? Like, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory per se.
I don't think it's impossible. It's just that if that is possible, the system itself is unsound. It's not the attacker's fault. It's that you've built something. Like, you know, if I've built a house and I can just like remove like one brick and the whole thing collapses, it's not the person who removes the brick's fault. It's me for building a shit house.
Yeah.
So I agree with that completely.
Someone definitely instigated it. It's quite apparent, but didn't sustain it. Like, they instigated it, and then the community members, the people that, you know, they did the rest by, and the fear basically spreads to where it causes it. So it's like a contagion. It causes it. So, you know, it's the product of its own demise. You only have to sort of tip the scales.
It's like a liquidation cascade, right? It's not like one single entity sells down the whole thing. They just have to do enough, and then you enter this kind of reflexive whatever feedback loop, and that does the rest. You know, the fireworks are there, you kind of throw the match on it. You don't really put down every individual firework type of thing.
How do you all feel about APE Coin, currently worth $8 billion? Seem like it's fair valuation?
No.
Jim's just like...
We got so long to go, aren't we? Really? I try and be positive, but we're fucked, honestly. 8 billion, APE Coin. I'm going to be a PJ Tour professional by the end of the
Jim, you got room next to your Planet Fitness short, you know?
Yeah. I did short that at like 20 something, but I just a scalper.
It was a very, I mean, it was like, by the way, you need this to buy the metaverse land. After that, don't really know what you need this for, but you need this to buy the metaverse land. It was a fairly obvious.
We're so screwed when shit like that's worth $8 billion. It's just sad.
Do you think that's going to ruin the NFT markets as people try to create the like fungible token aside, like next to the NFTs themselves? Like, what do y'all think that's just going to wreck everything as the liquidity spreads out and the tokens themselves fail to find a proper utility?
Yeah,
I think it's much easier for the tokens to go down because you have these charts to look at. When you look at the pictures, you just look at the pictures, right? People like look at the floor price and they don't look at anything like the volume, blah, blah, blah. When you look at that thing, that looks terrible. So I think people get much more spooked and then they just see like, why am I holding this shit? I think they also have a problem now where they have to somehow figure out how to return value to like the original monkey, the deformed monkey, the dog, the land, and the coin. There's too many things and like they can't return value to all of them. So they have to prioritize something. And I think they did a great job of making it really easy to hold the original stuff, because they gave you like other stuff that you could sell instead. Mm-hmm. And therefore you didn't have to sell this one, which like adds this reflective
like
upside.
Smooth Love Potion. You remember that one? the Axie one.
Yeah. But now like,
potion.
Now, if the other things start to get sold off so they can hold the main one, which where the value is going to return, the rest of the ecosystem gets crushed and there starts to be like a bunch of negativity. But look, I'm never short in BAYC because like it just seems to go up. It just seemed like I thought it would be over long ago. Even now they're doing these like crazy proposals where you just get paid not to sell. You get paid in APE Coin not to sell your APE Coin. So like, who knows? I'm never doing it.
They used the mint as a excuse, I guess, to say like Ethereum can't work for stuff like this, so now we need Ape Chain. And so naturally it seems like the Ape Coin will be a core component of Ape Chain, and then your $8 billion valuation sounds all right.
Does it?
$8 billion valuation. No, I mean, look, I hate NFTs that are like DeFi through the back door and slightly less sophisticated and with more layers of obfuscation. Like, if you're going to enjoy the picture, just enjoy the damn picture. And then whether you have to like stake it and then yield farm it, and then you've got impermanent loss and like 3 other assets and you're trying to figure out their correlation. Like, it's just so nonsensical, right? Like, at a certain point, you have to return to tradition and just have the fucking picture and nothing else. So no, I'm not a huge fan of that type of stuff. I think it will go through like some clear crypto style market cycle where it goes down, like 70, 90%. It might just happen at a very inopportune time. So like even if everything's nuking and people are saying, oh, look, it's so resilient despite broader market conditions, like we've had examples like Chainlink being the most obvious one, where stuff does really well when things are weak. And then you expect it, given that relative strength, to do super well when times are good, but then it just kind of floats and coasts and underperforms.
Yeah.
I don't think the market cycle is something you can avoid. It's just kind of a question of timing. So that would be the shitty scenario where it kind of stays resilient and causes disbelief by not going to zero when everything else is going to zero. And then as soon as NFTs make a comeback or ETH goes to 10 zillion or whatever, it just kind of floats and underperforms. I think there's a real chance of that happening.
I didn't realize I'd already drawn my squiggle on this one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I do think there's an interesting point about NFTs, but I must prefix this with that I've been sequentially wrong on NFTs throughout the entire existence of NFTs. I've never even had a single thought about NFTs that turned out to be correct. I haven't made a single winning trade on NFTs. In fact, I'm the perfect NFT counter trade indicator. Anyway, that aside, I'm going to give you another original thought on NFTs, which may also turn out to be wrong. But you know, with like coins, like Bitcoin and shit, when it's a bear market, stuff starts to, you think to yourself, why the fuck did I buy this? It doesn't even exist. It's like, it's just made up. It's like, why have I bought that? I've put my entire life savings into this thing. And then a bull market, you're like, oh, well, it's, you know, the future of money. It's a store of value. You can send energy around the world instantly with just your mind. You can store it in, you know, when NFTs go through a bear market, the picture is going to look less and less cool, and it's going to be very, very tied to a moment in time, like a euphoric point in history, kind of like really weird fashion, right? You know, you see those pictures of like Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, and they're just all wearing denim, and they like at some point that looked cool apparently, and now they look weird, and then maybe in the future it becomes cool again. But like NFTs are going to go through this same thing where like you're gonna be like, oh, that's the thing from 2021 where everyone put loads of money into the monkey pictures, and half the people on the internet hated them, and the other half the people like owned one or owned a derivative of one. And coins don't have that sort of like mental association with a specific point in time, because like, you know, stuff changes and blah blah, but like art and like fashion and culture does, and it goes out of style. So like next time around, it might not just recover like Bitcoin or Ethereum, which have ongoing moving narratives. The monkey pictures are going to like monkey pictures from 2021, and people are going to be like, "Oh, I regret 2021. It was fucking shit."
It's showing that post-look clarity on a grand scale, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
really
yeah,
like,
it's like-
oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
God.
Anyway, that's gonna power the next bull run for BAYC. They're gonna just start going up immediately. APE Coin is gonna go to it's gonna become the main currency of the world. But like art gets out of date. It gets boring. People start to like other different things.
Can we differentiate between art and fucking monkey pictures, please?
Look,
Is that okay?
philosophically, you can if you want.
Art is harder to steal than a BAYC.
BAYCs are not art. They are fucking putrid things.
His email address is jimtalbot@uponly.tv. Yeah, I don't know. As a holder of NFTs, I don't mind the airdrops because you get to do exactly what we were complaining about with VCs and tokens. Like you take that liquidity, like you said, Cobie, you sell this other thing so that you don't have to sell the primary thing, and then you kind of earn yield from those drops. So if you're willing to play that game and participate in the dumping, like you're not doing the 3-3, right? You're not mint and hold all of them. You're the one doing the -3 or whatever. Then it's fine. But I think if everybody catches on to that game, that it's not like a great hold, then you do get the liquidity fracture and problems in the long term. And I think a lot of these teams will end up regretting it. The other thing, I do think APE Coin and APE BAYC ecosystem, it can have long-term value, but it has to use this massive war chest now to grow into this extraordinary brand, like a worldwide brand and you need like plush animals and cartoons and theme parks and God knows what to justify.
Plush animals?
Yeah. Dude, come on.
Theme parks?
Yeah.
You'd go to a BAYC theme park?
Movies, games. It needs to be.
Movies?
Yes.
Then you can buy Planet of the Apes.
This has to be
Planet of the Bored Apes.
this has to grow into it. I think it needs to be like Star Wars level. I'm serious. I'm telling you the challenge. I'm not saying it's gonna achieve it, but I'm saying that's what it has to grow into from a value perspective. And
all the valuations has to come down, right? They have to meet at some point.
Well, yeah, I mean,
either it becomes Star Wars or it has to nuke. It doesn't have to become Star Wars.
George Lucas sold Star Wars for like $4 billion or something, right? But it's probably worth 10x that. And let's say this ecosystem, what's it worth now? Like, I don't know, 10 billion, 12. So there's obviously tons of downside, but there is a very weird world where you can imagine the games and whatever, where like the Yuga ecosystem, and they own punks now too. Like it all kind of.
Oh yeah, that'll help. That'll help in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, but their metaverse wins, and that is the cultural, center of this, whatever, if you want to call it an open metaverse, like Yuga oriented metaverse. That's what they have to become to succeed. I'm not saying it's likely. I think it's highly unlikely. But I'm saying that's the scale of what would have to be accomplished.
Yeah, so you're saying they've got to do an MCU.
I don't know what that is.
The Marvel universe thing, where they did they use all the old material and but like they sold Star Wars for what, 4, and you say it's worth 40.
I just made
that. But APE Coin,
but not the 4. The 4 is, I think, right. The
4 was right, but maybe it's worth 10x now. Maybe it's slightly less or whatever. But APE Coin's worth 8. BAYC is worth about 8. So we're already pushing 20 with the entire ecosystem. So it's worth half of Star Wars already. Only quick 2x to get to Star Wars level.
I mean, I think the likelihood.
My targets are way too optimistic.
And then, I don't know if you saw the BAYC game, but it's they've partnered they've partnered with Improbable, which is one of the first places I ever applied for a job, about 10 or so years ago, which is like they make like these self generating worlds, so they make like infinite worlds or something, and they've not really done anything. They haven't really built a successful. Like no one plays any of their games. The technology works, but no one's ever used them to play a fun game. They've partnered with them and they've just put an ape in it, because it used to be like a crab or something, or like a person. Like now they've stuck an ape in there. It's like a high definition version of Minecraft where nothing happens, but you're running around as a monkey.
I want to give a shout out to this guy because he said, I work in the high-end JPEG business. And this was after an apology to a critique, because he originally said, if you don't have a 6-figure value profile pic, I can't be bothered to talk to you. You just made me think of it.
I work in the high-end JPEG business. All right.
Yeah. Look. So, you guys just don't get it. You don't get the value prop of Bored Ape Yacht Club. And,
I find it so hard to be optimistic on anything when I see this shit.
The world.
It just pains me, man.
New short fuel here, Jeff.
It pains me seeing this just stupidity. The
thing is, in general, like one thing we can take away is like crypto rewards cynicism cycle to cycle, insofar as the stuff that did well last cycle is going to do just as well next one, because we like new stuff, we like shiny stuff, we like new narratives, we like coins without unlocks and back holders and ugly price charts and whatever else. So I think that's a pretty compelling baseline assumption to have just about crypto in general. I think it applies to NFTs, metaverse, Web3. I don't know what Web3 means, by the way. I'm pretty sure it's an op. It's made up. It's not real. But like generally speaking, if you kind of observe from the sidelines stuff that did really well in one specific market cycle, and then come the next one, you're finally ready to deploy, etc. Like historically, chasing after the stuff that you weren't able to participate in the first time round, unless it's like Bitcoin and ETH, and even then returns are being compressed a little, it just doesn't pay particularly well.
Yeah, I go buy loads of Maker, so I feel like I'm
Maker,
just-
Stratus.
yeah. Just have a wallet full of all stuff, so I can be like, yeah, look, I was there, I was around.
I have a question for y'all. What do you think in the world is undervalued?
Oh, in the entire world.
Yeah, sure. Pick anything. What has the potential to go up only?
Is it something you can tangibly buy to invest in? Do you mean?
Preferably, but I guess that doesn't have to be a mandate.
What's undervalued?
Somebody in the chat said common sense.
Yeah,
I think
like
that-
if I could long common sense.
I'd probably short. I don't think it's gonna go.
Yeah,
I don't think it's gonna
there's
go.
probably still some value to extract from shorting common sense, sadly.
What is
But I long, like if I could long anything, that is a good question.
Oil.
Maybe like nuclear energy or nuclear energy
It'd be like
derivative.
organic
stocks or something.
seeds,
Is
and fresh water.
Organic seeds. Is that using seed oils? I heard those are bad.
Oh,
No,
God, here we
just
go.
organic seeds of anything, like anything, vegetables, anything.
what
Organic.
about like test tube babies?
Yeah, really
Yeah,
fucked up
long-
shit like gene
long
therapy, you know, type of like, you know, transhumanism, turning us into robots, or like modifying wombs to make them super jacked and stuff like that. You know, probably coming soon to a city near you.
Wait, to
I
make the
think-
baby super jacked.
Yeah, you like genetically modify the thing as it's being made.
You have,
You know,
you have a shopping cart for your baby, and you just pick
Yes.
out like blue eyes, set up your configuration like it's an automobile.
I don't know.
You're gonna long gains.
Probably like I'm just thinking, yeah, all this dark stuff and all like optimistic stuff that I hope is undervalued, but like probably is not. But I don't know. It's going to be something really niche, and also like throughout history, you know, even in previous recessions, you had like breakout tech things go up, right? So like Facebook went up through like we were able to fundraise upwards through the financial crisis because they were growing a lot and it was important to the future. So I'm sure there's stuff that exists now that I just don't know exactly what it is. There'll be like tech products or companies and blah blah blah.
I have a legitimate one. Agricultural land, I think, is a great investment.
Yeah.
The price of that has been pumping as well, though.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
up a lot over the last.
I think it's a generational investment. I think you could buy agricultural land now and make. I think it'll be up by the time you're retired. Like
I think
that's going to go exponential.
I think
massive.
I think Bill Gates owns more agricultural land in the U.S. than anyone in the world.
It's so valuable because the soil quality nowadays is a big concern as far as because we're not. You need to give the land like adequate time to re-establish mineral content and nutrient value, and we're not doing that. So actual good agricultural land is really valuable. We're kind of fucking it up to where we've got like 20, 30 years left of good land.
yeah. Then we go to the metaverse. There, we've already solved for this problem, right?
Yeah, you can grow ample crops
We've gone
in the metaverse.
we've gone from yield farmers to like actual farmers. Just farm things.
I think there's also a lot of land in developing countries is probably undervalued as well. But you just have to do a lot of research to like see where it's actually undervalued. Because I think if you look at trends of like land and or housing prices in countries that have recently come up quite a lot, or you can look at the trends on like how many people in a particular, like what percentage of people in a particular country are connected to the internet, and then look at the housing prices correlation with that. So like stuff like that, I think probably undervalued.
A few answers in the chat were water, which I think was a good one.
I don't think that is a good one because water is just it's a function of energy.
Okay.
Like you have to if you believe in the water crisis. I previously believed in the water crisis, but if you believe in the water crisis, then you're making a bet that energy won't get more efficient over time, because you can make clean water from like unclean water just with energy. So I don't think that is actually. I used to be a big water doomer, but I don't think I am anymore.
Virginity
Just open the
futures.
tap. What the fuck?
Virginity futures was another one.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, actually, some sort of like incelly, simping type of vibe. Probably has got like a blow off top incoming. No pun intended. For once in my life, that probably narratively still has legs of some sort.
Well, there are a lot
like simp DAO type of sex robot.
Like OnlyFans equity.
There are a lot of cultures where
some version of that.
more people are single, not in a relationship, lower desire to be in a relationship. Another one was classic cars. I think my personal.
They're toppy.
I think so.
I think so.
My personal.
Yeah, because it's just wealth effect, isn't it? It's wealth effect.
Yeah.
People buy them when they've got loads of money from equities or whatever. And they go, oh, I'm going to buy this old Ferrari.
Same with watches. Watches have topped. Anyway.
Gotta talk to Bags and Keyword and Gainesy, all them. They just somebody got their watch stolen. So their watch.
Wasn't that
That's
Rocky?
all right. It's all right. They lose value anyway. So.
It was going to zero anyway. Your $500,000
Yeah.
watch, unnecessary. My thought was onshoring, or like things that are representative of more isolationism. I think is likely, both as a response, same kind of thing as the agricultural land, but also with like making goods, manufacturing things, being able to be self-supportive for your economy. I think the countries that can do that are probably making plans to try.
People making like drug like forks of psychedelics and stuff, or psychedelic research companies probably. There's a company doing like loads of stuff with ketamine. I think they're not just like taking ketamine. I think they're doing like legitimate shit with ketamine, like trying to make a super ketamine, not just partying. I think would be good. And then you have like AI and VR, which is like no one's really done anything yet that's real. So either it's like it's VR tops here and it's like all just going to actual zero over time, which is what I hope. Whereas for AI, I think there's it's going to be increasingly important in the world, but I don't know how you long it.
Did y'all see the new Google Glass prototypes? Like they look like
No.
they look like actual glasses this time. They look like thick Ray-Bans or something.
Cool.
Yeah.
I thought the original ones were pretty cool, to be honest. Like,
Oh man.
the concept was cool.
The concept, but the actual like implementation.
Yeah, I wouldn't be seen dead in them like in public. But
The new ones just look like the the kind of hipster, thick rimmed glasses.
I think that was Kyle Samani's like early thing. It was like a Google Glass for surgeons thing, but that was too early, and instead he's here dumping Solana on us. So chaos theory much.
He did one of the like no more bear market threads. At
Oh yeah, he was.
yeah, because I remember screenshotting it and putting the McAfee rant about those who do not understand the maths of this new paradigm or whatever.
He was also the billionaire bid for Solana at the Pico top.
The top.
Maybe he meant it was a mega bid at like $5 or something. It wasn't entirely clear. He didn't necessarily say it was at current prices, but that's me being charitable.
In his defense, he did call out the Luna situation in like January or something, February.
I mean, those threads, all of that stuff aged terribly, right? We were supposed to get all forms of decoupling between ETH and BTC, alts and the crypto market more broadly, even if, no bear market, but if there is one, it's going to have sectoral pumps. And then we decoupled from the S&P and man, none of that has aged terribly well. It just seems like after the majors top out, we turn into this correlated basket of shit and everything kind of dies together on average. Turns into like this reflexive ball of contagion. It'd be nice to move away from that, but then you see equities aren't moving away from it either when the big names are nuking there. So like, what kind of future are we really hoping for realistically?
that's a question then for all of you that I'd be interested is if Bitcoin just follows the S&P in like a subdued period where it doesn't establish itself as anything other than a risk-on asset, does that deem it as a failure in the grand scheme of things? What's your sort of stance on Bitcoin if it just peters out for the next 3 years?
I think people would say it depends on how high the price goes. Like in some ways, if the price goes high enough, it's done its job, right? It's like been a store of value, and people will just see it as the apolitical thing that you can put your money into if you don't specifically know what to put it into. Better than just like doing the index, because the index might be inefficient over time. I personally think it would have failed because that's like just kind of boring, and it's like what's the point? We've just got an artificial scarcity mechanic, and if it's not actually doing anything else in the world. But people are actually building stuff on Bitcoin these days. There's much more stuff happening at the moment than it feels like there has been over the last 5 years or so. So
took me a while.
We will see.
Took me a while to find, but Kyle tried to make a bet with Ryan Adams on the Sol ETH price by the end of year 2021 versus end of year 2022, and he made that bet 46% ago. But I mean, a lot of that stuff.
6 months to go, mate.
6 months to go, but it doesn't look great.
Yeah, it has to go up 100%.
I mean,
another question then: if Bitcoin fails here to establish its sort of fundamental value as an inflationary hedge, would you bet on it again when the opportunity presents itself to be a risk on again? Would you bet on it again being a high beta asset in an equities bull run again after this period of sort of failure to become its sort of fundamental calling, if that makes sense?
I think that it's got a big enough cult and there are enough believers that it becomes self-fulfilling up to a point. Like if you're waiting for the like macroeconomic environment to change and bidding Bitcoin at the lows, absolute worst case scenario is they do like a failed all-time high attempt, right? Like there's enough people that believe, and there's enough people who are on the sort of border of belief, such that the price going up can push them into belief. But I don't know. I will personally, because I don't understand how anything else in the world works. So I'm doomed. I'm doomed to these assets now. But I do think there's enough people who really truly believe.
Could you make the same critique from an inflationary protection perspective for just gold itself? I mean, that's not exactly the best chart in the world as an inflation protection, because that has all of 2021 where everything else went up only and it went sideways.
I think you have to. I think in general, inflation hedge. Did you see Sam's argument where he said Bitcoin worked really well as inflation hedge because as soon as rates start going up, it nuked. So effectively, depending on your look back period, it did work as a inflation hedge. It's just the term was misunderstood. It's not the fact that when inflation hits that it's supposed to go up, but it's when rates, in the absence of rates being high, it's supposed to do well, which was the case. A bit of a contorted argument and not what most people understand, but fair enough. To answer Jim's actual question, I am actually a fan of like narrative ambiguity and malleability when it comes to Bitcoin, right? So like, oh, is it a store of value? Is it like a payments thing? Is it apolitical money? Is it some sort of fucking battery, right? I mean, it isn't. That's nonsense. But like in general, I quite like that because it just means whatever the macro Ponzi game of the day is, we can find a way to make crypto fit to that and Bitcoin fit to that. And there's always, as digital money, that's so flexible and so adaptable. I think we'll always find a way when people want more risk on to kind of, pump essentially. And I think really what people mean by inflation hedge is get so rich on Ponzi's that by the time inflation happens, you're not affected by it. That's like my functional definition of it. Yeah. And I think it's a lot more honest than any of the others.
I just wonder how long Bitcoin can survive on its potential as opposed to actually fulfilling any sort of, what do you call it? What's the word?
Function, purpose,
it has so many potential narratives, but it's not actually fulfilled anything yet, other than being a speculative investment. And I'd like my argument with Bitcoin and the sustainability and the longevity of Bitcoin is: does it become more speculative the later you get in, due to the fact that it hasn't actually fulfilled any of its potential yet? on a grand scale, Like, it's actually less speculative the earlier you buy it because of its potential, but the later you get in, like if you're buying it at 30k now and it's not really it doesn't really have any identity of its own, does that make it more speculative buying it now, as opposed to if you were to buy Apple now, it's probably less speculative than if you were to buy it in the 80s, based on economic output and sales and all that sort of thing. Does Bitcoin do the opposite? Is it less? You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think one
Is
thing
it more speculative at 30k than it was at $15? I would say yes.
I think one thing that is interesting for Bitcoin is that the people that can create value for it is sort of anybody. Like if it's Apple, you're betting on a team of people building something that's valuable and continuing to be able to sell stuff to us. It's like we've got to make sure we still want the next iPhone or the next earphones or whatever. Whereas for Bitcoin, the people that are leading and creating value over time often changes. Like you had Satoshi did a bunch of work, then core devs took over, and then some exchanges or whoever added a bunch of value. I mean, even Ethereum added a ton of value to Bitcoin by widening the crypto ecosystem and experimenting on stuff slightly differently to how Bitcoin approaches the world to draw more capital and attention and different approaches to the space. And I think the existence of less sound or more experimental monetary schemes often reinforces what Bitcoin is. So I don't know. I think it's difficult to bet against on the long term because anyone can sort of make it better and anyone can add value. But I don't know. You sound like you're in the place where you're never buying again, mate.
Anything.
I'm not saying that I'll buy it in the right conditions, but am I buying it solely for beta in positive environment, as opposed to when I initially bought it based on the potential of it being some sort of sovereign, separate way to manage my money outside of the financial system? That's that's where I'm at. I'm questioning how long can we pretend that it's going to fulfill that potential.
As long as it takes, damn it, Jim. No, but look, I think it's getting slightly better every cycle, right? In terms of meaningful adoption. You've got a war in Europe and money's being raised in crypto, including Bitcoin. El Salvador's, albeit clumsy and authoritarian laden attempt to adopt it, is kind of slightly better than what we've had in the past from nation states. I think the trend is kind of in the right direction on average. It's just like with altcoins, right? You'll go through a cycle and 99.99% is utter garbage, and then you'll get a few gems out of it, like your curves, your makers, your Lidos, wink wink, etc., right? So as long as there's enough decent survivors amongst all the froth and garbage over a large enough time period, it feels kind of okay to take the volatility and take the froth. Because, if you reverse engineer your premise to some extent and think about what would a well-established, a successful and apolitical neutral money look like, it's probably fucking boring, mate. I don't want to own that much of it. Or from a speculator, trader, upside point of view, it's really unattractive. So maybe from a large time frame point of view, you're correct, but it's nice to relish and live in the time period where it's going through an identity crisis, and we get to participate in price discovery and just being in general. I
also think you can make similar critiques, and with lots of evidence of it actually coming true, of fiat currencies being broken. Most don't last, and even the ones that have lasted have lost buying power tremendously, where Bitcoin has obviously had contractions in its buying power, but overall it's done pretty well. Similar to if you look at the top equity indexes or many other things, land and real estate and whatever else that have gained relative buying power versus the dollar and improved people's station who had the option to own these harder assets in the economy and put things aside beyond just their like living wage. So I don't think Bitcoin's failed in that sense in any real regard.
I think it failed because it only went up 3 times since the previous all-time high this time. That's clearly a failure from my success criteria.
I get where you're coming from. I would love to see Bitcoin start, and I kind of think for Bitcoin to establish itself, it almost needs to get to the point of being boring,
It should. That would be adoption. That would be long-term success.
Exactly.
And we're trading like the APE derivative instead because Bitcoin's like done its mission.
Yeah,
so
we're trading APE coin.
a decade into Yuga Labs coins.
we're in 2028 and APE coins at 800 billion valuation. And we're all trading that.
Twitter's mad at me about my Star Wars comments. Or at least
what is their specific complaints?
Well, Nomad just put my comment in all caps, and then people are making fun of me. So they're not really mad; they're just enjoying making fun of my comments.
I
like that Nomad is like
the new trilogy. Would that help the situation?
Nomad just does the Delta One guys type tweeting for up only, just like headlines for up only. Ledger say something stupid again.
Sources. My takeaway from this so far is that Jim's plan is buy a gigantic farm, build a golf course in the middle of it, and just live there forever. Be self-sustaining.
Perfect.
The comment, Jim and Cobie look like they're from the same NFT collection.
That's brilliant.
That is quite funny.
I'll be honest, when I came on, I was like, has Cobie got the same fucking hat as me? But it's not. Thankfully.
Is yours Ralph Lauren?
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's Netflix.
Nice. What's that?
I started wearing Netflix hat and then Netflix.
It?
Yeah, so it's down a lot. I need to sell this hat soon to recoup.
I'm trying to figure out where you are because the sun isn't coming up where I am and it's throwing me slightly.
Yeah, that's actually this is a TV.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cobie, do we have anything else, or are we just are we done, or what?
I've got
to go Anthony Sasalno or whatever his name is house soon. So I've got to go over. I need to help him with his problems. He's got some issues.
Yeah, it's holding me.
Yeah. All right. So, in closing, anyone from the chat want anything specific from us before we? Well, you guys, I guess, going to bed. I've got to go into the beautiful light of day. Oh yeah, Farmer Bro. Shukeli messaged me on Telegram. He's back. He's thinking about what he's doing in the world. I'm going to try and get him to come on.
It's got to be crypto, right? Like, he has to dabble.
Somebody said he's got a crypto Twitter account already, and I guess you can tweet from prison. I don't know.
No, he's out of prison. He got out the other day.
I know, but like, they said he was like already established in crypto Twitter, but gotta guess who.
I see.
I just immediately go to Degen Spartan for anybody.
I think Degen Spartan might be Kane from Synthetics.
Ooh.
I love Degen Spartan, man. He's been shitting on DeFi for like 2 years straight. Every day.
Every day.
The
same tweet.
Like it's his job. Like, it's unbelievable.
Another day, another maker.
The dedication is just unbelievable.
I've also heard it might be Arthur Hayes, which would be another good one. But
Degen Spartan, no chance.
Okay.
No chance.
He's too much of a weeb to be Arthur Hayes, I think.
I like
also
the duality if it's Kane, because he's got Synthetics on one side and like hate all DeFi on the other. That's the nice one.
Yeah, but have you noticed that Degen Spartan never says anything about Synthetics? It's always like Maker and all the other ones. Also, they're on the same time zone, as I have observed by figuring out when they tweet and when they sleep. It could be Kane. Huh. It would be smart for Kane to have a non-shit posting alt from the same time era. Yeah. I think. Jim, what's your handicap? I think this is a golf-related question, but
it's around 6.
Ooh,
I've not got an official handicap this year right now, but I'm guessing it's around 6.
You get pumped when you shoot in the 70s?
Yeah.
When was the last time you were 90 plus?
90 plus score?
Yeah.
Oh, like a long time.
Okay,
long
so
time ago.
you're
Like, when I
pretty
was
steady.
like, yeah. I'm aiming for scratch. I should be in scratch pretty like in a few months, hopefully.
Oh wow. Well, good for you.
Oh yeah, okay, good question. What does everyone think of the record high longs on Bitfinex?
Yeah,
It's hedging. It's hedging. What happens is they sell spot, hedge the derivative, and it's a fraction of the cost to maintain the same exposure, and then they loan out the USDT so that they're actually gaining on that lost exposure. Okay?
You say okay like we're supposed to understand.
Well,
They sell their position into their own longs, and then
they sell
loan
their
out
spot, long the deriv, at a reduced cost to maintaining the spot exposure, and then the money left over goes into loaning out USDT at X percentage on Bitfinex, so that it's a delta neutral position where you're gaining a percentage on the money that you loan out.
Fair enough. I thought the Bitfinex longs were spot longs. There's not derivative longs.
But you can claim them,
Basically
right?
the same thing, right? Yeah, it's basically the same thing. You can claim the coins.
Yeah.
It's,
So it's
like
hedging. It's hedging spot exposure, and you can look at the CBD, and they're selling the same exposure that they're longing. So it's just a delta neutral way of maintaining the same exposure by making money elsewhere. Like, people need to just fucking give it a rest with that shit.
it's like it's 3 times the all-time high of longs ever or something.
Yeah, which tells you that we're fucked. The higher the longs go, the more fucked we are, okay? Post the chart over the long chart, and it will be inverse. I promise you. It'll be inverse.
I saw a good conspiracy theory, which was they're longing on the USDT pair because they know that when the USDT depeg happens, the Bitcoin price in USDT goes extremely high, but then they just get worthless USDT if they.
It also creates an arbitrage situation where when you long on Bitfinex, it increases the price. So Bitfinex is trading at a premium to every other exchange. So if you sell spot on a premium on Bitfinex, you can then buy on Binance for $60-$70 below Bitfinex premium. So there's a beautiful arbitrage there the whole way down. Like, people need to realize that these Bitfinex whales aren't positioning directionally. They're mainly arbitrage and delta neutral, and they've basically got the same exposure the whole time, and they're just skimming off the arbitrage. And people need to just give it a rest. 16.
Chat, give it a rest. Jim's sick of your questions.
I mean, this is like a chronic thing with Bitfinex data where it's always misinterpreted by people. Like the long-short ratios used to be a thing way back in the day. It's like, 60-40, 60% of people are long and 40% are short. It's like, fuck, man, that's really not how it works. Granted, it's a complicated thing. Like when Paolo came on this other podcast and explained the whole lending system and claiming, I kind of nodded along and I was like, I didn't fucking listen to a word of that. But it's not as directional as it may be.
You've got to realize that the Bitfinex whales are a different breed. They're not trying to increase their dollar value. They're trying to increase their sat value. They're really like they're Bitcoin maxis, and they're trying to increase their what do you call it? They're trying to increase their Bitcoin exposure as opposed to increasing their dollar value. Like it's just pointless data. It's useless data that's going to make you make stupid decisions. Just ignore it. Just fucking ignore it. Sick of it.
Looking at the chart, unless I'm looking at this incorrectly, like it seems like each peak is at an inflection point of some sort, but it's like both ways. So it was all-time high longs. December 2019 went up, all-time high just a few months later, right before COVID, got nuked. July 2021, Pico bottom of the, what do you call, is that a bear trap? And now here, I don't know.
this chart is just one entity getting richer and richer. That's why the longs go up. They just have more and more money over time. Just one entity getting richer. Nice. Someone in the chat said, how do they make it over the next 3 to 5 years? I mean, the last 3 to 5 years were much easier, but
take profit.
Did they
take profit incrementally all the time? If you're up in profit, take profit. Re-enter the next few days. Just keep taking profit. Stop round tripping you fucking generational entries because they're not generational. Keep taking profit.
Will the same thing work next time that worked last time, right? Like the ape into new coins with heavy trends with big backers. Do you think that'll work again?
Just fucking wait for the Fed to go, right, we've fucked up big time. We're going to have to correct our fuck up. We've overcorrected them to the upside, so we've overcorrected to the downside. Now we need to overcorrect to the upside again. Just wait for that and buy some shit and wait. Just wait. And in the meantime, if you're in profit, take profit. Okay? You're not getting a generation.
We need more questions for Jim.
Over the next 12 months.
We need more questions for Jim.
I'm still aroused.
I haven't actually seen Jim take a drink, but he definitely seems like he's been drinking.
Oh, I've been drinking the whole stream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's also looks like he's smoking from a Ledger device. Yeah, it looks exactly like.
Not your keys, not your coins.
Jim, what do you think about the merge?
I couldn't give two shits about the merge.
Jim, what are the top 3 alts to invest in this bear market?
Oh, here we go.
Absolutely none of them. There's no top altcoin.
Do they still have inverse alts? Is that a thing on Binance still?
There's no top altcoin. There's no thing exists. Top altcoin is a fucking fiction. It's a figment of your imagination. There's no thing exists.
Somebody said USDC, USDT, and DAI.
Yeah,
DAI. I like DAI.
Just hold your cash. Seriously, don't be stupid.
1 year from now, what's the low on Solana?
$5.
18. 10.
AVAX.
6.
$5.
I can't even do the Luna. Remember there was parity for a while between Soluna and AVAX. They were all $100.
I get annoyed. I get this every stream. I stream weekly, and every stream it's an altcoin ticker they want me to look at where they should have sold earlier, and they want me to give them the fucking reassurance that they're not going to lose all their money.
If you can't buy because you know what the Fed is doing, what price do you get interested in Bitcoin?
There's no price I get interested in Bitcoin.
The calendar is not an option. You don't know the news of the world. You just have to buy when it gets to a certain point.
There's no way. Like for me, like this is another thing that I always tell people. You got to react to price. You haven't got to predict price. I don't know where the price is going to go. I just have to react when it gets to a certain price. Like if it gets to a price and I see something that makes me interested in buying it, I'll buy it. But there's no price where I'm like I have to buy it at that price because what I value as discounted doesn't necessarily mean the market values it as discounted. That's where people go wrong. People see it at the price now and they're like, oh, that's cheaper than it was 6 months ago. That means I think it's cheap. But if the market doesn't agree with you, then it doesn't mean shit. So there's no price in my head where I will automatically buy Bitcoin. It depends on what the market deems value at that instance to where I'll buy it.
How many Chromie squiggles do you own? The question from the chat.
Fucking hell.
6. No. That's one great investment there. Forget everything I said. Crow squiggles is the true hedge.
You like the art?
I don't think it's smoked more than I normally would now for these questions.
The questions have kind of stopped. Now they're just talking about cat NFTs and miladies and shit. Oh yeah, what about monkeypox? First case of monkeypox in the US. Big deal.
An NFT.
Not yet. I think you need pretty close, like, human contact stuff. Like, the transmissibility is quite low, and none of us ever leave our homes, so I think we're mostly gonna be
Everybody
okay.
wants to instantly make it the exact same thing as the last thing, which was a generational thing. You know, this fear of the pandemic that you just got out of, which is now an endemic, and like they just want to repeat the same. Yeah, there's no way it's the same. There's no way it's anywhere close to it.
Is all metaverse coins going to zero?
Yeah, I think a lot of them will. I have this mental framework that I sometimes employ. It's the idea of narrative purgatory, where very late in a cycle, you get like a new sector or a new narrative, but it's not around for long enough to be able to pump because it's so late cycle, but also it doesn't make it to the next cycle because it never kind of entered the zeitgeist or captured any relevance or mind share or whatever else. And I think a lot of this metaverse garbage is going to fall into that category, like really late cycle, poorly thought out land or whatever else that was a feature of really late 2021. I think it belongs in that narrative type of purgatory. We're seeing a lot of funds raised now for like GameFi, Metaverse, A16Z is going to own all of the internet, like that type of premise. And I think when that hits the market with fresh coins, fresh tokens, and all the novelty, then it could become tradable. But like the old metaverse stuff, which is just like late cycle metaverse stuff that we have now, I think it's garbage. I wouldn't touch it.
You think GameFi has a chance to just get wrecked immediately, though? Like get funded, go public, and everybody's still too scarred?
If it goes public in the shitty conditions, yeah, almost certainly. And I think GameFi in general is like, you know, at least when you don't try to wrap it up in a veneer of like, you know, like GameFi is just like yield farming with extra steps. Like with DeFi, it's quite clear that there's this magic box, like it's the Ponzi-nomics, greater fool, rat race. Like it's very cerebral and straightforward in that regard. Like there is some obfuscation if you're an idiot, but like fundamentally, you know, it's a financial product. Whereas with GameFi, it's just like, it obfuscates that by pretending to be a game. And I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, if you're going to fuck me financially, at least do it explicitly, as opposed to trying to make me enjoy something which is fundamentally unenjoyable. And then there's like tokens being dumped on my head through the back door. I'm just not a fan of that. I'm probably wrong though, and it goes to infinity, you know.
The thing with narratives and fundamentals is it's a way to rationalize your idiotic spending. And they don't matter when things are in a bear market. They only give you the ability to buy something overpriced because you think you're buying it for a reason. But really, fundamentals and narratives are absolutely useless. There you go.
It's like mostly momentum and reflexivity and everything, and it works both ways.
If
That will have you covered.
If the liquidity's there to buy this crap, then it's there. But if it's not, like and like when stuff's going up, you'll go, oh, look at the fundamentals and the narrative and the potential for this to come into some sort of like amazing, like, wow, yeah. It doesn't mean shit. It just cons you into buying something that's already overvalued. Fundamentals and narrative mean jack shit. Liquidity is all that matters. Okay. And when liquidity
all one big game of chicken.
When liquidity is not on the table, it doesn't matter what it is and how good it is. If no one's there to buy it, it means jack shit. There you go.
On that note, Ledger, do you have a sad outro song?
Yeah, I can end us on the same sad outro song as we did before. Why not? First, though, do we want to do alpha? I think we just got lots of it, so.
The whole thing was just asking questions to Jim, so I think we're good.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks to our partners over at FTX. Go to uponly.tv/FTX, where you can dollar cost average out or in. Whichever way you gotta go. Depends on whose side you're taking here. Thanks to FTX for being our partners. You can trade stocks on FTX now. That's pretty cool. Thanks to Jim. Thanks to Cred. Thanks to Cobie for being back. We'll talk to you next time.
Peace.
This is mixing songs, but you know, why not? You gotta go through the intro again to get to the bad part.
Down, family.